Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Well, hello, and welcome to December. Yike. It's gray. It's warm. It's wet. It's Tuesday, and Susan's here. Hi, Suze.
Hey, you sound pretty chipper yourself.
Well, yes. Why not? I'm chipper.
Good.
Okay, so you know how you always hear these things, these surveys that say that, Americans don't know who can't pick the president or the vice president out of a lineup. I mean, how people just don't know anything. I'm so glad to see. This one has to do with the Brits. We're not the only idiots in the world. It says here, a British study found that roughly 15% of young adults do not know that pork comes from pigs and lamb comes from sheep.
Where do they think it comes from?
Well, a pig is a pig and a pork is a pork, and I don't know. I mean, how you don't know lamb when it says lamb?
Right, it's a lamb.
It's a lamb.
Like a chicken is a chicken.
Right, and it says here, too, that some 20% believe that fish fingers, I guess that's what they call fish sticks,
are really fish fingers.
Yes, come from fish fingers. Are really fish fingers. Oh, boy. Okay, I just thought we'd start with some frivolity about the fact that we're not the only stupid people in the world.
Did you hear about the University of Oklahoma president?
Something new?
Yeah, he put out a thing that just that basically said that it's a university, not daycare. Grow up and stop being afraid of ideas. And you're a bunch of narcissistic, coddled idiots.
Wait. This is the University of Oklahoma's new president?
Uh-huh. I don't know if he's new. He's their president.
Well, wait. The University of Oklahoma is the one where the president was knocked off. I mean, out. Right?
Yeah, well, I think that's who I think it is.
Okay. I didn't see that, but so if the University of Oklahoma president said that, it's the new guy. And I don't know if he's interim or the real deal, but it seems to me the interim guy was a African-American who...
No, this isn't an African-American. It's a white guy.
Well, then, Susan, you better have better sources and check your... Where'd you see that?
On the Today Show.
Oh! Well, by the way, if anyone thinks I'm looking weird, it's because they started up that damn strobe light. Didn't they just do that? How often do they do that?
Well, it's the first.
They do it on the first of Tuesday of every month.
Here you are.
I guess so. Okay, has it stopped?
Close your eyes. Put on your sunglasses.
No.
Turn around.
No, I think it stopped. Okay. Oh, yeah. Some
university president did.
Said grow up. And the whole idea of a universe, well, good. I'm glad to see there's more and more pushback. What did it say? In that regard, I just saw some silly thing here, too. A Columbia University student claims that she's been deeply traumatized by reading too many books about white people. All right. I mean... Nissi Aya told a university panel that the school's required core courses forced her to look at history through the lens of powerful white men. Well, yeah.
Yeah, as a woman, I object to that, too.
Yeah, I know, but that's just the way it's
right.
Being slightly corrected lately. As a result, she said, of feeling no power or agency as a black woman, she said, it's going to take me 6 years to graduate. And
she's suing them for 2 years?
No, I don't know what she's doing. I mean, listen. Yeah, I want to...
She's part of a trend. I mean, I'm hearing about it at the University of Chicago. immediately change everything and give in to our demands, and it's.
Well, Suze, I was thinking.
Yeah.
I was thinking, it sends me back to my days in college.
Yeah.
And I was there, not to date myself, in 1960 something, and.
You weren't there in 1960. I was there in 1969, so you were there in 1964. 5.
6.
6.
I didn't say 60. I said 60-something.
Oh, okay.
You've now given it all away. Thanks a lot.
They don't know that you didn't graduate high school until you were 43.
Yeah, right. Well, anyway, so... I've been thinking about us students, then, and trying to get my head back into then. And, we were full of certainty and righteousness and rage, and some of it was, perfectly understandable and reasonable. And I know, that I had a great deal of trouble acclimating to college. In fact, I had a bit of a breakdown. Now, today, that would become like the reason would be that there was no whatever. I don't know. It's just like what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say
there's no personal responsibility for the person. I mean, you were on the road that you were on, and I don't think the university could have done a damn thing about it. But It was a tumultuous time.
Horribly tumultuous. Fascinating.
But your path to growing up was difficult, and it was difficult before you went to university, and eventually, it straightened out.
Kind of. So, but what I was thinking was
the kids. You're a remarkable human being.
Yeah, thank you very much. The kids are. What am I hearing?
It's the same thing I've been hearing.
I think we killed it. But am I there?
Yeah.
Okay. Why can't I get this conversation started?
I don't know.
Jeez! So I just wanted to say that the kids, that thing is still happening. That the kids are they're right about a lot of things that they're drawing our attention to, as we were when we were kids. And they're just flat out wrong-headed about some things, as we were when we were kids. And grown-ups telling them stuff falls pretty much on deaf ears. I want to say that one of the things that all these students protesting has, it's like we taught our parents stuff, even while they were appalled at what we were doing. But we drew attention to all kinds
real
of
issues,
real injustices. Real injustices had to be dealt with then. About race, about gender.
Well, and the sad part is that the real injustices exist, in some ways almost worse.
No.
Well, I don't know.
How could you say they're worse? Women aren't in a better place than they were in 66? African Americans aren't in a better place than they were in 66?
I would say that Part B is in many ways debatable. I don't know that we were. Well,
Suze.
No, I'm serious. We live in a totally segregated place. Tell me what's changed, Lynn. Tell me what's changed.
What are you kidding me?
We live in a segregated place where we have descended back into gang violence, where people are killing each other right and left, where opportunities to go ahead do not exist, which exacerbates that problem. Explain to me, because it's possible to get someplace theoretically. doesn't really mean that it's better. We could all be, we can all be multimillionaires too.
Susan, but you're totally disregarding all of the gains made by the civil rights movement.
Like the Voting Acts bill that was just repealed.
It wasn't repealed. It got weakened. Let's just say that I doubt that any African American would go back to pre-civil rights era, or that any woman would go back to before.
No, we wouldn't go back, but we've
got
a
long way to go.
We have not blissfully. We have barely budged from the original, and in some ways things have gotten terribly
you have
worse.
A dark view today.
Well,
sorry.
This is actually, I think this is what we're being asked to understand.
Look,
that resting on our laurels doesn't get anybody anything.
I'm not resting on my laurels. I'm just saying it doesn't help to overstate the problem, which is some of what is going on college campuses. No one is assured of is assured of anything. I don't think. We young people are forever pulling, the curtain aside and forcing older generations to say, "Look, you told us this and it was a lie. You said this and it's a lie." And that is part of what young people do. What I was going to try to say is that the thing going on at Princeton with Woodrow Wilson is more interesting to me. As you know, the African-American students there are demanding that Wilson's name and picture be taken off of a bunch of buildings. He had been president of the University of Princeton. And I have to tell you, because when I first saw that, I thought, oh, come on. Then I start reading what they're saying about Wilson, and I learned something. I learned that, in fact, he was just an outrageous racist. Now, to be an outrageous racist, right out there, nothing was, he resegregated the civil service. He was scornful of African Americans. And when you start reading what he did and the impact it had on lives, I realize that, again, the history I know is full of holes. And if I were an African-American student at Princeton and I walked every day into the Woodrow Wilson, school of whatever, it's a bit of public and international affairs. And if I ate in the student cafeteria with his portrait and his picture everywhere, and I looked up into, and what I saw was this person who thought me to be less than human or unworthy of being, I can see that as a real issue.
Well, it is a real issue. I mean, the people that felt that way about black people also felt that way about Jews. Northwestern University was famous for its anti-Semitism.
Well, it was famous like any other school was famous. They were all like that.
Well, exactly.
You didn't let Jews in. There were quotas on Jews. Okay.
Right.
But they didn't have... But I'm saying they didn't have... it's much worse for these African Americans. Anyway, it blew me away that the New York Times came out and agreed with the students about Woodrow Wilson and said... the overwhelming weight of the evidence argues for rescinding the honor that the university has bestowed for decades on an unrepentant racist. And they're talking about a president of the United States, Woodrow Wilson. It's hard to know where to draw lines because obviously, but I was blown away that the New York Times said, "Yow, look at this, and look at really what he did. Look at what Wilson did." What they really want is for them to get his name off the School of Public and International Affairs, and also off one of the dormitories.
Well, and how about changing the way we teach history so that it includes teaching these things? I mean, we know which presidents were slave owners, although we aren't taking their names off of anything. At a certain point, you grant them the cover of the age in which they're living.
That's right. But the fact is he rolled things back.
Right.
He had someone had written an op-ed piece which I read.
Well, it was decades after the Civil War. He should have.
Well, it broke my heart because somebody, I guess it was his grandson, wrote an op-ed about what had happened to his grandfather, who had, against all odds, made his way up as a black man into a mid-level management position in the government printing office. And this is in after the Civil War, they started, people were let in a little bit, and he got in and rose up, and he was, he was so successful that he was able to buy a farm. He was able to be a man of true stature in the community. Woodrow Wilson comes into the White House and almost immediately orders that man, the grandfather, John Abraham Davis, that he be demoted from his job that he had gotten and had held by virtue of his ability, had be dropped down to a menial job as a messenger. He ended up making less than half of what he had made. He had to auction his farm, and he went into total depression, and he was a broken man. He died in 1928. That's the effect on one person of Woodrow Wilson's just unbelievable racism. I don't know. I'll never look at Woodrow Wilson the same way. I didn't know that about him.
Well,
I thought he was an internationalist who tried to keep us out.
We don't teach history. Obviously, this is the complaint.
Well, we teach history, as the girl I was trying to make fun of, through the eyes of powerful white men, not the black men whose lives they trample.
No, and according to the fiction that they put out.
Yeah. So anyway, it's all complicated, huh? It really is.
It is complicated.
But I don't understand why you would not acknowledge that.
Well,
there's
because
been extraordinary
I've been listening to what's going on in some of these schools, and part of it just rankles me, and part of it I totally get. And it does come from a feeling of, wait a minute, we're still living in your world, and we aren't getting the proper, any sort of the proper respect or acknowledgement, and certainly not what they would expect, 60 years or 50 years after some of these changes began to give them what was supposed to be real opportunity. I mean, one can argue.
The thing is, there's not real opportunity
for anybody anymore.
No, not for many, for many. So whatever. And of course, if you're African American, that puts you again. in probably the worst situation because, there's not even opportunity for whites anymore, poor whites. It has much more to do with, the demise of manufacturing jobs, and the fact that there just nobody's making jobs that a person can have a middle-class lifestyle. There's not a lot of... So whatever, I don't know.
Well, for me, it's always complicated by the fact that I was in college, during the same period that you started, and I was always just sort of totally turned off, even though I agreed with a lot of what was happening. I was always so turned off by the student leadership who were just clearly these narcissistic, creeps that were just getting off on their power.
There was definitely some of that going on.
There was a lot of that going on, and that's what I'm seeing in some of these situations.
Well, of course,
here.
Because people are young.
It doesn't serve. It loses support.
Exactly right. I remember going. This would have been 1967 to a meeting that somebody took me to. Of something called Students for a Democratic Society, SDS. And these were the real lefties. And I went to the meeting, and I was very, open. But the guy kept saying that until you're able to acknowledge that it's your parents who are the enemy, you haven't gotten your head where it needs to be. And, as you know, at the time, I was not on the greatest terms with Mom and Dad.
Right.
But when he said that and kept saying it, I thought, frankly, fuck you.
Right.
My parents aren't the enemy, even though I, was barely speaking to them. They're not the enemy. What kind of craziness is that? And I left and never came back to that particular organization. But when you're young and you're sure of yourself and you're filled with this sense of power, and that's what's happening on campuses right now, you do a lot of wonderful things and you do a lot of stupid shit. I mean, that's true. And I just want to say that I want to give some credit to opening my eyes to some things that I didn't know, but I also think a lot of what's going on right now is just seems like a temper tantrum.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But that's frequently what it seems like, and that's because we're old and grown up.
Yeah, grown up. So anyway, here's something. I didn't know. One of the things that started happening in the 60s and into the 70s, was the self-actualization movement.
Oh.
Did you read
what a creepy guy, yeah.
Oh, no, I think it's fascinating. So I want to talk about this, because I read it last night. The 60s were just a roiling time. I'm glad I was not a parent then, although it was somewhat interesting and adventuresome to be a young person then. But there was, every 2 minutes, someone was telling you something else of you've got to do this, or have you heard of this, or blah, blah, blah. And I was trying to think of all the crazy things I was pulled into. I remember once going to a Primal Scream session.
Who, you?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I wasn't.
So that's where it started.
No, I wasn't sure of myself at all then, and I found that absurd. Absolutely absurd. I was embarrassed by it. And we were like hitting things with pillows, and I thought, give me a break. I did, however, I had a mood ring. Did you have?
Well,
did you have a mood?
You had a mood ring, or you paid attention to your mood ring?
No, I had a mood ring.
Well, yeah, I mean, they were just a piece of jewelry.
Yeah, but it was all part of this, always being aware of your feelings. And None of that had ever really come into play before. And one of the guy who was at the center of it, just as a history lesson for those who didn't live then, was a guy named Werner Erhard.
Werner Erhard.
Jawohl, Werner Erhard. However, you should know his real name was Jack Rosenberg.
Talking about identification with the aggressor.
Right. So here's what happened. Werner Erhard, who had he'd been a car salesman in Philly, and he dabbled in Scientology, and then he thought, I gotta do something with my life. So he abandons his wife and 4 children. And on the way, on the plane to California, where we all thought, that's where you went to start over. On his way to California, Jack Rosenberg was reading an article in Esquire, and it was talking about some German guys. And one of their names was Ludwig Erhard, and the other was Werner Heisenberg. And he decided, he took the Erhard and he took the Werner. And when he got off the plane, he wasn't Jack Rosenberg, the car salesman who had abandoned his family. He was Werner Erhard. And man, he wasn't kidding. I mean, he really did reinvent himself. So he's the one behind what was known as E.S.T. Did you ever hear of it?
Yeah.
No, I'm talking to Celine. Celine has never heard of it. Well, E.S.T. was I remember Friends. I remember one, Leslie Berman.
Do you remember what it stands for?
Yeah, it just stands for his Erhard.
Self-actualization therapy or something?
No, Erhard Seminars Training.
Oh, Erhard Seminars Training, and it was in self-actualization.
Well, it was to learn how to be all that you could be, I guess. And my God, people paid hundreds of dollars, which at the time was like thousands, to go to, I had a friend who went to New York, and you went to a hotel in a ballroom, and you sat for hours on end as he, I guess, told you how to be a better you. But it was...
Yeah, he basically yelled at you mostly.
I think he yelled a lot. He didn't let you eat. He didn't let you take bathroom breaks. It was very combative. And people came out saying that they were new people. The usuals. Diana Ross was changed. Joe Namath was changed. Yoko Ono. Jerry Rubin. And a lot of others. So he's on the cover of Newsweek as the celebrity guru and blah, blah, blah. But this thing took off. Now, we were just with our mother, and Mom reminded me that in the 70s, even she dragged our father off to some yogi to learn transcendental meditation. This was all part of what Werner Erhard, helped launch, this whole age. Although Mom said, I did it because I thought it would help his blood pressure.
Well, she was right.
She was right,
do it.
but he didn't do it.
No.
I mean, I can't imagine anyone.
I can remember that. I can remember when he was trying, though.
I do. I remember him trying. He really did try. But I'm sure the minute he tried to do his meditation, he started thinking about...
He started adding numbers.
Numbers, right. Thinking about...
He should have just let it be his mantra.
I wonder what the stock market
equals 80, 28 times 7
stock
equals...
market, how many square footage is in, and I say, right. So that didn't work too well. Anyway, but this was a nutty time, the 70s. It was flat out nutty. So I'm looking at a picture of Werner Erhard, the young guru, with the Dalai Lama, with Buckminster Fuller. He was huge.
He was it.
He was it. And then 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes did a profile in 1991. He lasted that long in 1991 and took him down. He was depicted as an abusive husband, an abusive father, sexually molested his daughters, yada, yada, yada. And his reaction to it was he gave all of his business to his brother and gave his Great Dane to a friend and left the country, which is usually a sign of guilt, isn't it?
Well,
it was not.
For him, it's a pattern.
But it was not guilt. It was not. It turns out, and here's the fascinating thing. Do you know where 60 Minutes got all its information?
From his angry first wife?
No. From the Church of Scientology.
Oh, my goodness.
The Scientologists wanted
got mad
to
because
take,
instead of going,
he was pulling people away from them, and they went after him. And as we now know, we know they can do that.
Right.
And he said, L. Ron Hubbard declared me fair game. Declared him, anyone who's watched that incredible documentary, Going Clear, which
they were in direct competition for the same people.
Yeah. Well, you got to figure. You see, he dabbled in Scientology, and he did take
and then
some
he thought,
of that
why
stuff.
should I give my allegiance to him? I'll just be him.
Yeah, I'll do that kind of thing myself.
Right.
And so L. Ron Hubbard said, I am going to destroy this guy. And he did. The IRS, because of what 60 Minutes did, went after him. He ends up suing the IRS and winning. The IRS paid him $200,000. The daughter, who had said on 60 Minutes that she had been molested by him, said, no, it hadn't happened. It was all a setup, all by the Scientologist.
So she was on the Scientologist side?
Well, she was mad at him.
Well, right.
And she's also a jerk because, according to Time magazine, she said she accused him of abuse because... No. She said she had lied to receive an advance on a book she was writing. So somebody paid her.
Right.
Okay. So Werner Erhard, who some people say has really altered the world. And when what made me think about talking about this is when you said at the beginning of the show about the kids on these campuses being narcissistic and self-centered and all of this narcissism and self-centeredness in American culture, you can trace back, perhaps, to E.S.T. That's certainly millions of people took those E.S.T. seminars. And they were people of influence, and they felt helped by what they had learned. And do you know what? He's still going. He's come back.
He's come back, right?
And he's being touted by a Harvard economist as brilliant. And the Harvard economist said he changed his life. So Werner Erhard is back. But what I thought was fascinating is that a guy... Well, here's what the New York Times says. that Earhart casts a fairly long shadow in the culture. His influence extends far beyond a couple of million people who have done his course. There is hardly a self-help book or a management training program that does not incorporate the principles he was teaching of E.S.T. So if you've ever been sent on a retreat at your business and your job, or had some kind of training sessions to get your energy up and be the best you could be for the company, all that crap comes right out of E.S.T. It is still very much part of the culture. And he's in his 80s now. And he has taken E.S.T. and turned it into something called, I'm trying to remember what it's called, Landmark or something? Do you know Landmark? Now Celine knows Landmark.
That's what Landmark is?
Yes. Okay, so Celine knows Landmark.
Yeah.
So Landmark, which Earhart continues to develop the programs for it, Landmark is what E.S.T. turned after the 60 Minutes thing and stuff. It morphed into something called Forum, and then Forum morphed into Landmark. And in Landmark, see now, that's interesting, Celine knows Landmark. So you know people who've done that. You've done it?
I have not.
But you know people who have.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, she knows people who has. So he's still very much part, but the Harvard economist did Landmark and said it changed his life. And the Harvard economist says that he's a genius. He's an incredible genius. And we have to work to get this kind of transformational material into our universities. Earhart is one of the great intellectuals of the century, says the Harvard economist. And he's a bit cultish, right? So listen to this. I have to read this one thing to you because it's too funny. So Earhart, now in his 80s, is working on a 1,000-page textbook. Listen to this sentence from it, okay? Please?
Yes.
As linguistic abstractions, leader and leadership create leader and leadership as realms of possibility, in which, when you are being a leader, all possible ways of being are available to you. What?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, what?
It seems to boil down to the more that you tell yourself you can do whatever it is you damn please, you can do your whatever it is you damn please.
But I got to tell you, what gobbledygook. And I got a feeling that because people have trouble parsing that a sentence like that, that they feel somehow
it's smart.
He must be really smart. Well, actually, he must be really smart. He might be the con man of the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got a great line of patter, and he goes into these weird... Anyway, the head of Reebok, CEO of Reebok, he's done Landmark. And he says, they've got to take this to government.
Oh, great.
He says that after he did the Landmark thing, Reebok stock prices jumped from the $6 or $7 range to $25 to $30. That's after he made his employees take the Landmark training. So I gotta tell you, he has a huge corporate presence. If you work for Microsoft, Lululemon, Reebok, NASA, all of them have used Werner Earhart in his new incarnation. So it never went away. It never went away. It's just been more corporatized and seemingly made to be less about self-actualization than leadership, than how to become a leader. And that's how he's selling it now. Do you know that he was so successful in beating back everything that 60 Minutes had said about him that 60 Minutes is actually, you cannot find that it has removed that 60 Minutes piece from its archives. It doesn't exist anymore because it was that
60 Minutes in the interest of making good stories, makes you wonder how many other characters they assassinated.
Well, that's true. That's true. But after they essentially, character assassinated him.
But how could you even then knowingly use Scientology sources as your only source?
Because they might not have been known
aware
they were
that
Scientologists. What the Scientologists did is they hired 3 private investigators to dig up anything and everything they could on him, and then they, packaged it. The Scientologists are smart, and they're vicious when they're going after someone. So they took him down. But he's back. That's what this whole article was back. Werner Erhard, a.k.a. Jack Rosenberg, is back. He's a good-looking guy. Did you see a picture?
Well, yeah, I'm sure that's part of it. He can mesmerize.
Yeah. So, there you have it. I read this last night. I thought, wow. So L. Ron Hubbard, this guy, yeah.
Well, he outlived Hubbard anyway.
He outlived him, and he never made himself into it wasn't as disgusting as Scientology, what he did.
No, because you aren't required to
give him your money.
You can stay with him. All you do is the training, and then that's it.
Although he did end up with graduate seminars, so he gets a little more of your money and stuff like that.
Tune-ups.
But I got to tell you, and it's not that. I would imagine a lot of the people who've taken these threshold things would say, yeah, there was some helpful stuff in there. Sort of a cross between Dale Carnegie, the power of positive thinking, and
I got to tell you, have you ever? Because of my days on the school board, I went to a lot of, those sorts of things, and it never failed to do anything to me except make me roll my eyes and sigh.
Yeah.
It's just always there's just something that hokey-ish about this stuff, and I can't take it seriously. I just can't do it.
Yeah. Well, all this, it's mumbo jumbo, much of it. I don't know. So anyway, I'm being asked if that new picture of me on Twitter is me doing Primal Scream. You haven't seen that picture, Susan.
No.
It's definitely a picture of me doing a Primal Scream. It's pretty frightening, actually. And I guess this is Lori, I think. She said she had a mood ring, too. And she always enjoys Tuesdays. Well, and Margie thinks Chicago has changed you, Susan.
Why?
I think because you were so vociferous at the beginning. When you were in St. Louis, you were more moderate. Yeah.
I don't know if it's Chicago.
Well, it might be, or it might be getting...
I could get pretty vociferous in St. Louis.
That's true. Well, I don't know what Mark meant exactly, but anyway.
Well, I'm sorry. Life has changed. If you aren't changing, you're dead.
Yeah. So, I heard this promo on a local TV station. What would that have been? NBC. That's PXI. Last night. And I never saw their late news to find out how they had... But I was talking about this yesterday, Susan. It's a local story. A cab driver here was shot by a passenger who was inquiring about his nationality. Found out, he kept saying, "Are you a Pakistani?" And he said, "No, I'm Moroccan, but I'm, American." And the guy starts ranting about Islam and blah, blah, blah. The cabbie takes him to his destination, and the guy says, I don't have my wallet, even though he picked him up at the casino, so I guess he had to have had his wallet. I don't have my wallet, hang on a minute. And he went into the house and came out with a shotgun. And the cabbie pulls away, obviously, and shots are fired, and he's hit in the back. He has survived, but strangely, no arrest has been made, which I cannot comprehend.
How can they not?
Well, you tell me. And there's been nothing on the news. Anybody knows any more on this? Anybody heard?
I mean, in order...
They said they have no description of the guy. How do you have no description of the guy? He was in the cab. The guy had to have seen him a little. Maybe.
Well, maybe not. You train yourself not to even look. Someone gets in where to. You don't look.
Well, I would think if a guy started having that kind of conversation with me, you'd take a peek in your rearview mirror. I don't know. Now they're saying they have no identification. They dropped him off at a place where he went in and got a gun. The people in that house can't identify him? I so don't understand this story. But here was what the promo was. And it pissed me off. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I wrote it down the minute they said it. A cabbie shot in the back in Hazelwood. The question about ISIS that now has the FBI involved. The question about ISIS that now has the FBI involved. Now, it has
was the passenger asking the guy?
Yeah, sure. Because the thing is, the FBI, we've known, was involved almost immediately because there was a sense that obviously this could be classified as a hate crime. So the FBI did get involved. And I didn't stay up to watch that stupid newscast because I figured they brought ISIS in just to get people scared and to what? ISIS! Here! Maybe that cabbie is ISIS, right? Jeez. My guess is it was just more of the questions being asked by the jerk who tried to kill this cabbie. I don't know. Did anybody see Channel 11's news last night? There is nothing in the PG today about this story. I am ready to scream with frustration about what is going on with this story. I hate not being told the truth. And something is weird here. From the police?
Well, not only not told the truth, but at least by the headline, deliberately misled.
The question about ISIS.
I mean, that's just bad. That's just intentional misleading in order to scare you enough to read the article.
Or no, in this case, to watch their news.
Yeah.
Yeah. I and there's no forthcoming any info about it. Just drives me insane. I don't know why I really am upset about this. I am. Melanie writes, having totally gone down the Scientology wormhole, the trademark of Hubbard and Miscavige, that's the guy who took over from him, is to talk that way. Like, you mean that indecipherable crapola way. A total spin of nonsense that keeps everyone in total confusion. Are you the only one that can't understand? Scientology is guilty of so much more than this. I'd recommend reading the incredible Miss Lovely by Tony Ortega. You can't believe what Scientology did to her. Well, I really recommend as well, Melanie, if anyone has not seen that movie, the documentary. Breaking.
Yeah, it's just
what?
Terribly frightening.
Going clear. It's not unbelievable because it's so well documented.
Right. And I mean, I feel like we're watching Leah Remini, fight for her life, just staying out there and talking like this so they don't come get her.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Oh, well, she left Scientology, and they're engaged in trying to take her down.
Is she the one with the big lips?
I don't know if she has big lips. She's got a sitcom on TV. She's
She is.
everywhere. She's doing well for herself, but I do think that she's trying very hard to protect herself, and she's been locked out of her whole life. She was raised in Scientology.
Okay, so they're after her.
Yeah, because she wanted to know what happened to the wife of the current leader. They were friends, and she suddenly disappeared.
And she's disappeared. No,
Right.
That Scientology is frightening. It's scary, it's frightening, and it operates it has its own laws, its own rules, and the feds can't touch it, which I find fascinating. Boy. Okay. I wanted to say, the other day I was saying it's got to be hard to be a Muslim in this country or anywhere right now in some ways, and hug a Muslim, I was saying, like that cabbie. Also, I have a new group to hug today, and that is hug a Planned Parenthood worker. I mean, I cannot say that enough. Can you imagine having the courage to day in and day out walk past people screaming at you, calling you a murderer, going in past locked doors and all this stuff, having to deal with bomb threats, dealing with the constant harassment from government and this and that, and then every once in a while, somebody actually gets killed. Well, in this case, we have more carnage than usual. There are 6 children who have lost parents. All 3 people killed had 2 children apiece, young children. And I just want to read something that Tony Norman said today. He said he goes through the violence against Planned Parenthood, the murders of Dr. George Tiller, of Dr. Slepian, the receptionist who was doused in gas and then there's been unbelievable violence against the doctors, the employees, the guards, the escorts, and the patients. And amazingly, for something that is totally legal. Hundreds of bomb threats. 41 actually carried out. Imagine having the gumption to go to work every day at a targeted facility like Planned Parenthood. And Tony says this, just to get how much harassment and fear it must be dealt with on a daily basis. He says when Planned Parenthood is not the object of congressional witch hunts, it's dealing with constant calls for the assassination of its doctors. It's dealing with arson attacks, sabotage of its facilities, offices disrupted by fake patients, arbitrary zoning laws, and waves of legislation aimed only at putting it out of business. That's the reality of Planned Parenthood. The other reality is it is the number one agency in this country that prevents unwanted pregnancies. Hug a Planned Parenthood worker, or even better, write a check today to Planned Parenthood of Western Pennsylvania. I know the people who work there. They are the bravest women I've ever met. I mean it. Send them a check. It's not like they're rolling in dough. That's the other thing. People who work there could make tons more money anywhere else. They work there. It's like a mission to them. And the mission is women's health, not killing people. All right, Beth writes, Lynn, if this criminal got into the cab at the casino would have surveillance of... I agree. There'd be surveillance tape all over the place. The casino, God knows how many. I mean, there's cameras everywhere, right? But definitely at the casino. Of what he looked like getting into that cab. Let's be honest. If you're walking around on the North Shore, cameras are all around between the stadiums, the bars, and the casino. Sounds like law enforcement doesn't want to find this guy. Well, I could find this guy. What was the location of the cab where he went in Hazelwood? How do you not find this guy? And why aren't they telling us what he looks like so we can be on the lookout for him? It's bizarre. Oh, God. So anyway, have you noticed the reluctance of if you read, like I read an AP story today about the Planned Parenthood thing, and every story still says, the motivation is not clear.
Yeah, what do you mean? Well, I think because this guy seems so...
Nuts. Yeah. But listen, did you hear what Ted Cruz said about him?
What? That he's a hero? What?
No. He said... Wait, let me make sure I get this right. Is this Donald Trump? No, this is Cruz. He said he was not inspired by the rhetoric of the anti-abortion movement at all, and was, in fact, get this, here's what Cruz said, quote, he is a transgendered leftist activist.
You're kidding. He just gets to make this stuff up?
Well, it does turn out that his voter registration lists him as a woman. Transgendered leftist activist. Where'd the leftists come in? Where'd that come from? Huh?
I don't know.
Isn't that something?
Well, because if you're transgendered, you must be left.
Well, not true, but I mean, isn't that
I'm
something?
just making stuff up.
I know. Well, so are they.
That's right.
Oh.
And I don't, if the guy is if the only thing that they're quoting coming out of his mouth is no more baby parts, then how can you tell me that the rhetoric does not inflame?
Exactly.
I mean, that's the one thing that we all know.
Unbelievable. And it doesn't matter that, of course, they're not in the business of selling baby parts. The facts don't matter one whit.
I know. I have to admit, I was, as usual, perusing the St. Louis paper, and they're now trying to shut down the Columbia, Missouri Planned Parenthood. It's one of the only place besides St. Louis where they do abortions still. And they haven't been able to do them since November because they put one of those, you have to have a doctor with privileges, and the University of Missouri revoked the privileges of the doctor because the legislature was making a stink. And so there's the usual comments about baby killers and women slaughtered, and meaning potential women slaughtered. And one woman today was being particularly just nonsensically hateful. So every time she posted, I started responding, you just made Planned Parenthood another $10.
Well, I hope so. And that's what I'm saying.
I said,
My reaction to it is to give them money. Give them money. They need it.
And that's what I do. You just made them another 10. Who wants to join me? Every time, this woman starts spouting again, let's just all give Planned Parenthood more money and see if we can make her our major fundraiser.
Boy, oh boy. I'll tell you.
That we do. Anybody that feels like this, whatever you can do, whether it's $5, whether it's $10, whether it's $1, they need help.
More than ever. They are under constant. They have to fight all these fights. Like they've got a ton of lawyers to do this. There's a lot of just volunteers desperately working. Their money.
And it is about the rights of women to proper health care. Just health care, and how that part can just be glossed over.
And then, what's even more, the total cynicism of this harassing legislation that essentially has closed down easily half of all the Planned Parenthood facilities in the country. Really?
Yeah. I didn't hear any of that.
Oh, well.
Okay, now I hear you.
I'm just saying that all this harassing legislation creates all kinds of
it makes it look like open season is okay.
Well, it is. It is. It's anything they can think of. They'll think of something else next. I've seen some of these regulations and what they mean, and they are beyond belief. I mean, it's like, and then the state comes in and inspects all the time. Do you have the light switch 5 inches from the door? I mean, it's stuff like that. Is there a, it's that kind of absolute harassment.
And they constantly changing and doing this requires that they continually work on their facilities, which costs money.
Right, lots of money.
So they'll use whatever they can. The economic war, it's harassment.
Slander,
it's
economic war.
Women
it's a real
war.
Who are
trying to exercise their constitutional right.
So when you say there is a war on women, there is a war on women. And it is focused mostly on Planned Parenthood. And when legislators pass these bills and actually, with a straight face, say that they are to ensure the health of women, it is such an extraordinary lie.
Yeah.
It is such a cynical lie. We are mandating that there has to be a surge. These places have to be essentially mini hospitals with all of the kinds of bells and whistles. All of it unnecessary. All of it unnecessary for any of the work that Planned Parenthood does. But it's a way to get them to spend money until they have no money left to do their jobs. That's why they can't pay their people very much either. Send Planned Parenthood $5 today, would you? If we all did, wow, what a statement. All right, we're out of time. Sue, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. And goodbye to you as well.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.